Rebel on the radio, baby.
It's a full-time job just to open up your brain for deposits. And when you get it in the world, these motherfuckers shove you back in the closet. Do your shit, do it well. You got to boogie for yourself because nobody else will believe you. Nobody else will believe you. But I do.
Yo, Ben, you want me to wear headphones or?
Are you all right? If you can hear me, I can hear you. You sound
great.
Okay. Well, let's go. Yeah, I mean, whatever suits you, really, Adam.
Yeah, I feel like we talked around maybe last fall. I don't know.
If fall means about October, then I will go with that. The thing is, I don't really know the American slang for the seasons doesn't ring true over here. It's like it could be summer and still be hammering down with rain. So
yeah,
fall,
you don't have seasons.
No, we just sort of hope for the best. I think that's the best way to put it. But the last time we spoke, I think it was in October sort of time, and Private Lives was coming out about 2 weeks after the last time we spoke, and I'd heard like certain bits and pieces from the record, from the Tough Cookie stuff, and obviously I've got it up here. You can sort of see it if you look.
I see it, but I also see my friend Lily's album there over your shoulder.
Lily Hyatt, yeah, had Lily on the show a few weeks ago.
Oh, good. She is the best. I love her.
And I saw a video of you guys playing on YouTube together. You did a number with her in Nashville, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That sounded good, and but it was weird because like some of the songs you played on Tough Cookies, I'd already heard, and I think most of the fans are the same. But then when I actually heard the record from start to finish, it really is a piece of art. It's brilliant. It's one of the best albums that's out there. Man. I love it, and I wondered if you had a personal favorite track off of it.
Absolutely, 100%. I do. Usually it's not easy to pick a favorite, but Stay As Long As You Like is definitely my favorite song, which is the final song on the album.
That's great, that one. That was recorded in Joe's Pub, it says on the in sleeve.
Yeah, it had been many, many, many years since I'd done like a proper solo concert. So many years playing with the band. And of course I did little solo radio performances, etc. But I did this concert here in Philly at the church near me. And it was such an amazing night. I did 3 concerts actually. And I was so excited about it. I said, I think I'd like to do a proper New York City solo concert. So I did a show at Joe's Pub, and it's such a beautiful room, and a lot of people that I love have played there. Lou Reed, Patti Smith, Leonard Cohen, Alan Toussaint used to play there every week, and on the same piano that I played on. And I did this solo concert, and I was nervous, and I don't really get nervous, Ben.
Right.
And it was like a magic show. Just, such an energy in the room. And I decided to premiere a lot of the songs off of Private Lives that night. So I played Stay As Long As You Like. And it may have been the first time I played it ever. And I remember thinking, I don't think I'll ever do it as good as that ever again. So that was the version I just put out on the album.
Such a good song. I think there's so many good songs on the record. Help Me is a standout track. And the one that I heard for the first time when it actually came out was It Don't Take a Genius. Sure. And that one, that is such a good song. That's a good song in every respect. It's got a fantastic chorus in it. I just wondered if you give me a little insight into where that number came from.
Okay. I don't know how to be insightful, but I'll try.
Neither do I.
a lot of things with me, I don't know where they come from, but years ago, before Low Cut Connie, I used to have a band. I had many bands before, but one of them was called the Shadow Boys. Don't bother looking for it. You won't find it. But when I was living in New York City, I was living in Queens. This would have been 2002 through 6. I
Right.
lived in Astoria, Queens, under the train. And we lived in this terrible, disgusting house that we lived in, me and my friend. And we had a Mexican whorehouse behind us and a crack den under us, and a sausage factory next to us. This place where they made sausage. So the whole neighborhood had this like iridescent liquid on the ground from the sausage. And it was underneath the train tracks. So every 4 minutes you heard the train, but it was cheap and they let us play music. And It Don't Take a Genius is like one of those songs where, going back to those days, my days of living in Queens, I had that tune. I didn't have the words, but I had the tune.
Right.
It was like the sound of that time for me. Kind of like edgy New York, but with heart and soul in it somewhere, And but I never had words for it. And then I was putting the Private Lives album together, and it just, sometimes things just pop up 10 years later.
Right.
And it did, and it happened real quick. I like that song a lot.
It's brilliant because it's quite interesting you say that, because it's almost like two separate songs in a way. You've got that sort of interesting beat during the verse, and then the chorus goes into something completely different. I think that's something interesting about a lot of your music. Actually, you must listen past the intro and the first close to a minute, because there's always something different that comes in. It's like you've got always got a good chorus. So like, do you know what I mean? Like, that needs to be, you need to listen to the whole song rather than just a little piece of it. It's
Sure.
difficult.
Thank you. Well, I have a very short attention span, as the Tough Cookies viewers will know. And but all the music that I grew up listening to, and the people that I consider some of the greatest craftsmen and craftswomen of songs. It's amazing, Ben, like the last year I've covered over 700 songs on Tough Cookies. So I've been just loving singing other people's music over the last year.
Yeah.
And also not just singing it, but analyzing, me and Will picking apart all these different songs, whether it be Aretha Franklin or Black Sabbath or the Village People or ABBA or the Carpenters, whatever it is. A lot of funk and soul, a lot of country, a lot of classic rock and roll, and also a lot of early jazz. We've just been trying all this different music, and I've learned a lot about what makes a great song great from studying all these and picking apart these songs. And I think what you just touched on is really important, which is not necessarily putting pieces together that are disjointed, but a song does have to travel a distance. You have to end up somewhere beyond where you started. You got to go from point A to point B. And so you have to hook people in the first 10 to 20 seconds, and then you have to take them somewhere that they didn't necessarily expect to go.
Right.
So I do like to play around with fitting things together that don't necessarily seem like they should go together.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because that leads me on to my next sort of thing about the amount of different covers that you have done, and I've read this, and you'll know more, 500 covers plus during the Tough Cookies sort of period, which has been the last year. And you've got a new album coming out, Tough Cookies, the best of the quarantine broadcasts, and you picked 23 songs. How have you whittled it down to these final 23? And before you answer that, it's funny because before I read the track listing on the record, the new record that's coming out, I thought there's one that's got to be on there, and that was Red Corvette by Prince. And the reason is because I'd never heard that sort of version of it before, and I think that's I'm assuming that's your version of the song, because I didn't even know what song it was. I went, this is great. You know, when you did it on the one of the Tough Cookies broadcasts, I thought this is a really good song. So when I saw the track list, and I thought, straight away I'm just looking for that, and I was like, there it is, track 4.
Yeah.
How did you pick them?
Well, the first thing I decided was no Low Cut Connie songs.
Right.
So we've now done 91 episodes.
Yeah.
So that's about 900 to 1,000 performances of songs, and almost half are Low Cut Connie. Well, I'd say about 300 are probably Low Cut Connie. But of the 500 to 600 covers, and
that's ridiculous, isn't it? That is a ridiculous amount of songs.
Yeah, and we don't repeat either.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
You know, so first thing I thought, I've never done a covers album, and so this is a chance to just do that. And also, then this has been such a unique year for everybody. Everybody in the world has been affected in some way by the events of the last year, in good ways and bad ways. We can't deny that we've all gone through changes, right? And so the first thing I thought was, I want the record to really reflect this year. I want it to mirror what people have been feeling for the last year. And that's an array of emotions and experiences. So there were certain things like American Skin that I wanted to put on there because they were absolutely, completely topical. We did a version of I Shall Be Released the night that they called the election here in Philly. People were dancing in the streets, and it wasn't exactly a joyful feeling. It was just catharsis. It was like we could breathe, you know, for the first time. So we did I Shall Be Released, and I can hear that the emotion of that moment was in my voice. Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone, which we ended up doing at the inauguration for President Biden.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, it was the week that George Floyd was murdered. And it was a very difficult show to do. And
it's an album of memories in some respects, isn't it?
And then there's certain passings, like we lost Bill Withers last year. And I honored him with Ain't No Sunshine, and we lost. We had Little Richard episode, and I put on the record me reciting the Jewish prayer for the dead, Kaddish, because there's just so much loss last year, and loss of life, loss of hope, loss of jobs, loss of connections. And Kaddish is a Jewish prayer that we say to honor what we've lost and then turn the page. And so I did recite that on the show the night that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. Some of your listeners will know who that is, and some of them won't. But it was a very heavy day for a lot of people in America. But Little Red Corvette is an example of a song that I chose because I felt I felt this freedom over the last year to sing songs that I love the way that I want to sing them, whether it be Madonna or Prince or Donna Summer,
Neil Young.
Neil Young, Cardi B, whatever it is. It was like a chance for me to do it my way. Many years ago, Ben, I think I've told you that I used to play for years for tips in bars, mostly gay bars, piano bars in New York. And people would, give me money to play songs. And in those times, I had to imitate other people. If somebody wanted to hear a Donna Summer song, I had to try and sing like her. Or if they wanted an Elton John song, I had to do it like Elton John.
Yeah.
All these years later, I have made a life for myself and a career for myself and found my own voice. And so it was important to me that I sing songs my way. And so something like Little Red Corvette, which is a song that I cherish, I sing it the way I sing it. And I wanted people to hear that I have my own style. And that was a big part of putting this record together, is letting people hear me interpret other material.
I think that song, Red Corvette, you've actually wasn't a song I ever really liked that much, if I'm honest. I think the way you did it made it a lot more appealing to me. It's more of a bluesy sound to it. You made a quite a sad song, especially at the start of it. And that's actually a good point. I did write down a question here that I sort of got a few that I'm 50-50 about asking. But if you could, because it's an interesting point, because you go back to when you first started and when you were playing in different bars and like for tips, and it's like what most musicians, like working musicians, do. But if you could give yourself advice, if you were like looking back at the 19-year-old, 20-year-old you at the beginning of when you started starting to play live and stuff, I wonder what you would say to yourself now.
Well, I think, first of all, I wouldn't change much, but I did lose a lot of time chasing after the wrong things,
Right.
not just business wise, but also artistically. See, the thing has been, most people in this industry, and it's not a great industry to work in, let's just be honest.
Yeah, you're right.
You need to get signed to a label. You need to get somebody to invest in you. And you need a manager, and you need an agent, and you need a publicist. You need all these things. How do you get those things? Well, if you try, you may not like what you find. I wasted too much time chasing after the music business. I never did get signed to a label. So the first thing I would say to myself is, don't waste time chasing after people that aren't ever going to like you or ever going to support you or understand what you're doing. But also artistically, it took me some time to circle back to myself. Like, I didn't play piano for a bunch of years. I was playing all over as ladyfingers, and most of these places didn't have pianos that I played. And I tried on all these different hats. Okay, I'll be country guy. Okay, I'll be rockabilly guy. Okay, I'll be weird performance art guy. Okay, I'll be punk guy. And I was always doing something interesting, but I wasn't necessarily doing me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And soul music and music that comes from the heart is often not in fashion. What's hip and what's in fashion is usually what's sexy and cool and usually
not very good. Not very good.
Well, some of it's good, some of it's not, but there's usually a little bit of irony or a removal of emotion, you know. But I always loved music that came from the heart, whatever the genre of music, whether it was Otis Redding or Hank Williams or Patti Smith, it's music that comes right from the heart, right? And that to me is soul music. And for a bunch of years, I lost my faith in my own heart in the music, and I was trying to cover it up.
Right.
And so the main thing I would tell my young self is just let yourself show, you know, let yourself be you, and let your heart show. It's hard to do that when you're young, though.
Well, that's a good bit of advice for younger fans that you've got, I think, who were maybe starting out just learning a bit of piano, learning a bit of guitar, trying to song at the beginning. And it's difficult when you first start, isn't it? Because you're not very good and you want to try and be as good as the people that, your heroes and whatnot.
I mean, I remember, I've been blessed with a lot of good reviews, but one of the early Low Cut Connie shows, we played in front of a very, very hip, cool audience. And I'm not going to mention where. There was a review of the show that was very negative, and in a very derogatory way, it said that my performance, my singing, my piano was very reminiscent of Elton John.
Who's a fan of yours?
Yeah, and I thought, I don't think I sound exactly like Elton, but they were saying it like it was an insult. And I thought, Elton John is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. He's
given the world so much. And why would that be a bad thing? But they were saying it in terms of, Adam is schmaltzy and uncool. And it's taken me a long time to just say, if I'm uncool, I'm fine with that. And if I'm going to be called schmaltzy, I'm fine with that too. I'm happy about it.
I think Elton's probably all right. He's got more money in the bank than we'll ever see. That's a fact. He's great. I really like Elton. If you listen to him in interviews and stuff like that as well, he's got a really. I mean, you've met him, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
And
yeah,
he's a good guy.
So generous. First of all, outside of the music business, Ben, look at what this man has done for the world. He has raised literally billions of dollars and made such an impact in the fight against HIV, in advocating for LGBTQ rights around the world.
Yeah.
He's always, had that charitable, altruistic side to him, and he's led with it in many ways. He put his compassion that's in his music, and that maybe has made him uncool to some people. It's such a gift to this world. But as a musician, first of all, he's the biggest singles artist of the 70s, right? Most hit songs in the 70s. Some of those songs are just timeless, and definitely. just some of the most amazing vocal performances of that era. So I'm honored to be compared to him.
He's a living legend, I think. And yeah, you should be honored to be compared to Elton. I think he's great, and I also like his attitude. It's funny because I've seen him on different things like the Osbournes and stuff like that, and he's such a well-liked guy within the music industry.
So funny and self-deprecating, and just you guys have that British wit, goddamn, and he's got that in spades. He can laugh at himself.
Yeah. It's where you laugh at times when it's not always right to laugh as well. I think that's part of what gets you through tough times is laughter. I've always said, and I believe that your sense of humor is the most important thing. If you've got a sense of humor, then you're going to be okay for a bit. And I wonder with you, as well. Do you ever sort of like look to the future? Do you ever think about where Low Cut Connie's going? Because it's been going for 10, 11 years now. And obviously you're sort of what I would class as the Lemmy of the group. So you're the one key point that goes through all of Low Cut Connie. You were there at the start, you're there now, and people have come and gone. And yeah. Do you think, where do you see it in 10 years, Adam?
It's the first time I've been compared to Lemmy in a while.
Well, I think it's a good comparison. And my friend,
I do,
look,
yeah.
Look at that. Look at this. Look, there's a tattoo there. That's Lemmy.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. That's funny because me and Will are just talking about covering Motorhead this week.
Yeah, you must. That'd be brilliant.
We both love Motorhead, and Lemmy is, when you look up rock and roll in the dictionary, you should see his face right next to it, right?
I agree. Yeah.
And, just such a powerful musician and presence.
Well, it was his life. That was all.
Well, like Lemmy, I'm a lifer with this.
Exactly.
And so is Will. And that's why Will has been with me for over 7 years.
Yeah.
While we've cycled through over 30 members of the group. Where do I see it in 10 years? I really respect artists like you mentioned Neil Young earlier. I'll use Neil Young as an example. He's always trying to do something new. He's always challenging himself. I really appreciate artists like that. David Bowie was like that. Lou Reed's like that.
Definitely.
So many. Aretha Franklin, James Brown, artists that pushed themselves artistically. And as the decades go on, they're still trying to do something interesting, still trying to do something new. And, I had the pleasure of meeting one of my heroes, Bruce Springsteen, a couple of years ago, who was a fan of Low Cut Connie. And when I walked away, I said, God damn, he's still 50 years on. He's still out there on his quest. He's still trying to make his greatest thing.
Yeah.
And I hope I can just live up to, just as a craftsman, because I'm one of these people that I do have to work hard. If I don't work hard, I don't do great. But I'm just going to keep working hard because I love performing and I love making art. I do hope that sometime in the next 10 years, I hope that I get to go into other media. That's one thing I hope. I'd like to work on a film.
That's really weird you say that, because my next question, I've got it written down here, is you've been doing a lot of interviews yourself recently. You've interviewed some really big names in the music industry, and I wondered if you were going to sort of maybe think about doing something in the media, or would you ever fancy having a crack at like acting or anything like that?
Sure. Yes and yes. I have absolutely loved doing these interviews.
Right.
I started out interviewing my friend Patty Jackson here in Philadelphia, who is only known to people locally here in Philadelphia. And then within a couple weeks, I was interviewing Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members like Dion, Darlene Love. I just interviewed Nancy Wilson from Heart, Nick Hornby, and I interviewed Beyonce's father. All these people, and we've got a bunch of amazing guests coming up on the show, and I've loved it. Richard Hell hadn't done a video interview in 7 or 8 years on camera, and he chose to do it with me. I don't want to stop doing that because I really enjoy it. But at some point, I would like to get into film, into writing music for film, and ideally being on camera, because I did start, I'm a performer through and through.
Definitely.
And so I'd like to think that I might have something to offer as a performer in a film.
I reckon I would say you do. You've got a way of letting yourself go, which is, I think, half the battle. Like having that sort of switch in your head that goes, right, no, we're going to go for this. And you're hard working. That's what makes Low Cut Connie so successful. Really, I've always said, well, I say always, but in the last few years, you're the hardest working band there is out there at the moment.
Thank you,
And
buddy. And you are unique in that the UK has been, very slow to pick up on Low Cut Connie, and I love playing in the UK almost as much as anywhere in the world because it's the best live music audiences like anywhere. But as you know, when we come to England, the crowds are small, and we can't get laid in a whorehouse with radio in England, in terms of BBC. I don't think we've ever been played one time on the BBC.
yeah, well,
Maybe once. I'll have to look that up.
if I ever make it to that stage, you'll be the most played band on the BBC. I say you're my favorite working band, without a doubt. Like, there's legendary bands, Adam, like Led Zeppelin and Queen and Elton and Hendrix or Motorhead, whoever. You can think of millions of great artists over the years. There's so many, but at the moment, of a working band, you are the best band, in my opinion.
Thank you, buddy. Well,
and I only interview people that I like. Like, it's like Lily Hyatt. I think that album's great. I think Private Lives is fantastic. Got an album by Steph Chora down there, and that album there, actually, I love. Jason Molina from Magnolia Electric.
Sure.
Just great music. And I noticed you got a few gigs coming up, and I would imagine you can't wait to get back out in front of an audience, because that is your bread and butter, isn't it? That's what you love.
A pent up lion,
Just ready
to be uncaged. No, yeah, we put 4 shows on sale: New York City, Philly, Washington DC, and Jersey City.
Yeah.
And I'm so impressed with the tickets, and it sent me a message like, okay, we're going to be all right. The people are going to show up, and we can just do our thing. Just do our thing. So me and Will are like salivating over these shows this fall, and then next year, God willing, let's all be safe and healthy, we'll get back over to the UK and Europe. We hope to go to Australia and tour all over the US and Canada. And we haven't gotten to play a lot of these private live songs for people.
Yeah.
And there'll probably be new songs by then too.
It's going to be great to see some of those live. I know, but you have played a few of them live for ages, I know. And you mentioned the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, and I wondered, who would you have induct you into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when that?
Oh, I don't see that happening. I will tell you, I'm going to flip your question around.
Go on.
And I've been working with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now over the last 6 months, because I interviewed Sly and the Family Stone, Nancy Wilson from Heart, and Dion, Darlene Love, Nils Lofgren. These are all Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people.
Yeah.
And I'm about to interview a really big artist that I love. I can't say the name. I could tell you off camera.
Yeah, we'll switch it off in a minute, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, but there are artists that I would like to see, that I would like to induct into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that I think belong there. The New York Dolls.
Yeah, I can't believe they're not in it.
It's nuts. I would love to see the MC5 get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But it's crazy that they're not in it. It's mad.
Yeah, and there are a lot of unsung heroes from early rock and roll that I love. Like one of my favorite singers of all time is this woman named Big Maybelle.
Right.
And she sang the original Whole Lot of Shakin' Going On before Jerry Lee Lewis. And she was just an absolute force of nature. I'd like to see her inducted and recognized. I'd like to see Warren Zevon get in there. There's a lot of people. Tina Turner is not in there as a solo artist, and I'm hoping that she gets in this year. She's my absolute top live performance hero. I always talk about James Brown and Prince and Mick Jagger, but Tina is just she's the queen of rock and roll.
I don't think Motorhead are in it, funny enough.
No.
Which I mean, that's crazy. They should be in there, surely. I tell you what, Adam, it's been great to talk to you again. And I'm going to sort of end the interview here, and we can maybe have a couple of seconds with just off the record.
Sure.
But thanks so much for sitting down with me again.
My pleasure always, buddy.
Really
I can't wait to see you over there.
I can't wait till you come over and do a show. And I'm actually going to try and make it over to the New York show in December, but it's all sort of dependent on whether or not we're allowed to travel. And it's one of those, fingers crossed. But thanks very much, Adam.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
That's the fucking you get for the fucking you got. Jubilation when you're high on